to a wonderful life with you. My miracle life with you.
Alright, so that's good. And that's good.
She's here. The Infinite Mother is here.
Alright, so the first time we spoke, I'm going to start again. Just got to raise this up a little bit more.
Yeah, tell us when you're going to start.
Alright, so you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, what time is it now?
Does anybody have the time?
Baby? It's about
5:18.
5:18. What time would you like to finish so we can be in time
Well,
for
we
the
have to
interview?
call in at 5 till.
Yeah, we have to call in a 5 till.
All right then.
5 till
Great.
6.
So I'm going to put my timer right here as well so we can see what's going on.
Gabriel is here.
And reset, and we'll
It's not.
30.
Sirius is here.
So we'll try for 30 minutes, okay?
Mother, Series, Gabriel. Infinite Mother, Series, Gabriel.
So before I start, I'd like to just ask, I was going to save the questions, I've got personal questions for you too,
Uh-huh.
and then I've got more, say, celestial questions
That would be for the meeting.
for the meeting.
Oh,
So I'll
yeah.
save those ones for the meeting. Alright, so we're ready?
Although there are some celestials here.
Alright then.
The Infinite Mother is here.
Okay.
Gabriel is here.
Awesome.
And Sirius is here.
And Sirius is here too.
She's known as Demeter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I saw that.
Ancient
I watched
philosophy.
your worship session where you mentioned
Right.
all of them.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was very interesting.
Apollo will be coming later.
Alright,
And Gamaliel.
Gamaliel. Okay, so we're going to start now, okay? Alright. Well, greetings, Michael and Dianne Dunkin. And I'm very happy to be able to talk to you two today. The last time I came and visited, or we came and visited, we spoke about a lot of different subjects. Today I'd really like to focus on the mission that you're on and your journey with the Urantia Book. Before, what led you to the Urantia Book, your journey with the Urantia Book, and what has led you to this moment on this mission with Maitreya and the other celestial beings that are now located at this worship home and spiritual location. So first I'd like to ask you, how did you both get involved with the Urantia Book, and what was your journey up to that?
I think you were first, weren't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Mid-80s.
Well, it depends on what level you're talking about. In 1985, I found the Urantia Book. I was very, I was having a hard time at that time because my first husband, who died of cancer, was out of a job because of his health. And we went to the Orange County Library to find newspapers for him to look for work. I always would go with him to give him support. He wasn't well. And I found the Urantia Book there. And I told my father about it. And he said, well, you must get me a book. You've got to see that book. So we went out and bought the Urantia Book for my father. And then my mother complained, my father won't share. She said, your dad will not share with me. You have to get me one too. So we went back and got him a book. And it was just at the bookstore.
Okay.
There was no searching. There was no problem. And so then my father passed away after that. But he did read the Urantia Book. And this was in 1985. He passed away in 93. So they had the books.
Yes.
And so when my mother came to live here in this home with us after he passed away, she brought the books. And so Michael, we had married, and that's another story.
Mm-hmm. That's a big story.
That's a big one. I don't know if they want to get into that.
No, we'll try and keep it simple. These are the Urantia books up here, by the way.
Yes.
My
See those
mother's
two to
and
the
my
left?
father's.
Those two to the left,
Yes.
right there.
Yes,
This is
I
very
gave
cool.
one to my dad. My father, when I was a young lady, gave me 2 books, The Light of Egypt, 2 volumes. And so I wrote in his Urantia book, I'm repaying the favor, I'm giving you this wonderful Urantia book.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mother got hers a month later. So it was July for my father and August for my mother of 85.
All right, so question. I'm going to ask you to keep the answers brief so we can get everything in time.
Oh, sure.
But question, have you two had a relationship prior to this physical experience?
Well, that's what I was going to say. What level do you want to talk
Yes,
about?
because I saw something in one of your videos
Yes.
where you hinted at it,
Oh,
but
no,
you
it's
didn't
real.
go into any
Oh,
detail.
Very real.
So I just wanted to know, is that what I got from that?
Oh, definitely. I'll try and make it
Yes.
brief. In 1985 again, we were very, very, we were having an awful time. My husband was very bad off. He did ultimately die of cancer. And what I was doing was meditating in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that may sound silly, but we would come home from the libraries and different places where he was looking for work.
Yes.
And I would meditate in the bathtub. All of a sudden, and this had never happened before, although I've always talked to the angels all my life,
Yes.
since I was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, a young man appeared. He wasn't really that young, in a Greek, like a chiton,
Mm-hmm.
and little sandals. And he tried to make contact with me. But we had an awful time. He started bringing in boards with letters on them, and that didn't work. And so we finally decided we'd just talk to each other, just, in our minds, back and
Yes.
forth.
Yes.
So he was there, and he would come every day. I'd take a nice bath in the evening, usually
Yes.
after the day. And he would come and talk to me. And then about 6 months later, he brought in a young man to the house, into the home. At first, he did come into the home, but we were alone. He would come down to the downstairs, which was a family room at that time, and I had a big hassock and sofas around it, and we'd sit on the sofas and hold hands, and we'd pray. But one day, he brought in a very young man, a teenager, probably about 15 or 16, with blonde hair turned up down to his shoulders, blue eyes, very, very sweet, but didn't say a word. And he brought him in, and I sat him in the corner, and I can show you later the room and the corner and where the chair was. It's not a family room anymore, though. It's our bedroom. But so he would bring him in there, and he would sit in the corner with his hands folded, not ever saying one word, and his eyes lowered, and just sit there. Well, Mark II, and that was his name.
That was the gentleman with
Mark.
the chiton.
Yes.
And these are in the meditations.
Yes.
We would sit there and talk and pray, because I'd say, I'm praying for my husband, he's very ill. I'm praying for my 2 sons, because they want to go to college. They are very intelligent, and we want everything to work out well for our family. Well, one day, the young man came over to the hassock, sat down with us, and held our hands, and we sat around the hassock and prayed together. And from then on, whenever Mark II would bring in the young man, he would not go into the corner, he'd sit around the hassock. Well, after this, about a year or so, this went on. And then all of a sudden, we were no longer in the home. The meditations were... We have a beautiful, beautiful hotel called the Ritz-Carlton. It's so lovely. What city exactly?
Corona del Mar.
It's just Corona
By Salt
del Mar.
Creek Beach.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was there. And I would drive down there in my car, open up the car door, throw my shoes down, my sandals, and run out onto the beach. And there waiting was the young man. But he was no longer 16. He was grown up. He was grown up. And I would run out to him. And he'd have on the little keton, like Mark II, and the little sandals. And we would hold hands, and he would be so happy to see me. And then we would walk along the sand, up and down the Ritz-Carlton ocean sand there. And I would tell him all my troubles, and my poor husband, who I loved so dearly, my poor children, my sons, my 2 boys, such wonderful boys, each one of them very religious. Dean had a church and still has had a church for all these years. So all of a sudden, though, in we would say probably 89, he was gone. I didn't see him or Mark II for 2 years. And then in 1991, my oldest son, both my sons were musicians. They were both going to UCI to get their educations. And my son told me, well, we were going down to a choir that he directed. I was in all the choirs, all my son's choirs and my husband's choirs and everyone. So he said, well, I don't want to take you home because I'm really going to be late. Would you mind if we go to the school? And it was raining. He said, and then you'd have to watch the rehearsal. And I said, oh, of course, we'll do that, Dean. Dean is my son. So we drove to the school, UCI, which wasn't too far. And we went in, I put my umbrella down, I'd come prepared. And I looked at the choir. My son was playing the piano, and then we had our beautiful director. She was directing, although Dean is also a director. And I looked at the choir, and I looked at all of them, and it was so beautiful, the UCI choir. And they were singing. It was
UC Irvine.
UCI, yeah. UCI, not Irvine Valley College. Oh, you mean in Irvine?
UC Irvine.
Yes,
yeah.
my son Dean also taught at Irvine Valley College. I thought he was talking about that. And all of a sudden in the middle of the choir, it was like a rosebud. All of a sudden there he was, in the middle, in the center of the choir. And so afterward, after the choir was over and the rehearsal, Dean's best friend was Michael, his very best friend. And he said, oh, Mom, you've got to meet Michael because Michael's just like you. He's just like you. And so we met, and it was so exciting. And I went home and wrote in my diary, and I have my diaries. And I wrote, May 8th, 1991.
Yeah, that was the
I
date.
met him. How could this be? And I couldn't understand what was going on. Well, we had 5 concerts, and at every concert, Michael was there, of course, being in the choir, and my son directing and playing, and at every time. And on the 5th one, we were at the church. One was at a church this time, June the 2nd. And I was just, I couldn't make sense of it. But both of us sat down at the table. There was a lot of people, hundreds of people. It was a really big concert at the church. And we sat down. We started talking about our families and my sons and his mother and father. And we decided that night we'd spend the rest of our lives together.
Yeah.
We'd seen each other 5 times in the flesh. 5 concerts.
Yeah. So we tried to devise a plan.
We
Get
did,
together.
and we did. We said, what are we going to do? What can we do? And Michael said, well, we'll have Dean give me piano lessons.
Voila.
And so we asked Dean, will you give him piano lessons? We were at the church. This was the 5th meeting. And Dean said, well, sure. And Michael said, well, I'll come June 21st when I have to do some things first. And on June 21st he came, and he opened the door, and I said, do you know what you're getting into? And he said, you know,
I do.
I do.
Let's do it.
I do. Let's do it.
And we've been
We
together ever since 1991
yes.
in the flesh.
Yes.
In the flesh. We were married in 95, July 13th. We took 4
14
years to really think about
Yes.
it. 4 years. 4
Before they got
years
married.
before we got married.
4 years before we got married.
1985 or 1995?
In the flesh.
95 we got married.
In 85 we met in the spirit. In 95 we met in the flesh. No, 91 in the flesh.
91, May 8th,
95 in July we married. Now, there's a reason that we married beyond what you know, and that goes into the children, and I'll be real quick. I was told also in 1985 I would be given 3 children. A little girl with brown eyes, a little boy with brown eyes, and a baby with blue eyes. And I said, well, is the baby born yet? And they said, no, not yet. Well, in reality, none of them were born. What happened is my sister-in-law died in 2006. And I took the youngest 3 children. But,
Oh, wow.
so they told us from 1985, I was told, until 2006. We didn't know what was going on. But I made the bedroom downstairs for a little 10-year-old girl that they said I'd get, and I had it there from 1991 until 2007 when I got her.
Tremendous faith in what she was doing.
But the reason we married, I was going to tell you one of the main reasons. We were driving on the freeway, Michael and I, and we knew we would be together forever, but we weren't sure how, you know. There is an age difference between us. 26 years. That's a long time. Michael is very young. And I hate to tell you my last birthday, but I was 75 in November.
Wow, you look good.
75.
You look amazing.
And so it is a real age difference.
Yes.
But the good Lord knew that I needed help. My poor husband was not able to help my sons, not able to help me.
And then
Then the children came. And we were driving along the freeway, and I told him, I said, Michael, we have a real problem. I said, they're telling me the children are doomed unless we marry. The children are doomed. Well, he said, well,
Let's do it.
we'll get married. Let's get married right away. And so
All right.
we did.
Question. I'm coming to you now.
Okay.
How many years experience have you had with the Urantia book to this point?
Experience.
How many years have you been reading
Okay.
the Urantia book?
Well, mid-80s, mid to late 80s, okay. But before that, well, about at that time, I started reading a book called Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. So that kind of set me up for a spiritual life that I continued in my first college. And that's when I really discovered vegetarianism.
Yes.
I discovered kind of a Zen-like way of approaching life, because Way of the Peaceful Warrior focuses a lot on a Zen type of, meditation, being aware of your breathing, vegetarianism, having a good, pure spiritual vehicle, right? So that continued into my first college. And at my first college, I really started getting into music. We had a fantastic choir tour in Washington with my choir, University of Laverne. But then I got together with a fraternity, and I started performing, in the talent shows.
Yes.
And I sang Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. My parents were there. Everything worked out. Beautiful high note at the end. So my parents said, "A star is born." So that's when I started looking for colleges that could offer me a little bit more of a music program. So I looked in the catalog and I saw the word fine arts, and that just kind of jumped out at me. Fine arts, wow, cool, let's do it. And it was UC Irvine, right?
Where my sons are going. Of
So I
course.
transferred.
She introduced you to the Urantia Book?
I did.
Yes. So
Right
I transferred.
after that,
I transferred to UC Irvine, and that's when I met Dianne. But at that time, I had been studying some other spiritualities. So she introduced, more of the. I had read a little bit of the Urantia Book, but she had them here. So then I really started delving into them, right? And then we in the process, we were Theosophists.
Rosicrucians.
Rosicrucians, Maitreya, Great Tao. You can hear some of that from our radio programs and our videos. And then the children came. You know about the children. But it was about, maybe 7, 8 years ago when, we needed to reconnect spiritually in some way.
Yes, we
You
did.
know what I
We
mean?
did, yeah.
Yeah.
The children, it was hard. Our children have disabilities of mental nature.
Autism spectrum,
all kinds of
attention deficit and things like that.
All
So,
3 of them?
yes.
All 5 of them.
There were
actually
5.
had-
We took the youngest 3.
we took the youngest 3, but at a certain period, we also welcomed the 2 teenagers into our home. They were with the grandparents. They went to the grandparents in Utah. They were Mormons, and they were very loving and giving, and took the older boys.
So we
But
started.
had-
We
wow.
started getting it. We picked up the Urantia book because we had 2 copies, and we just started reading. Of course, we started with, with Adam and Eve, with the material sons and daughters. Kind of got into that, but because of the stresses and strains of the situation and work, I had to buy the audio cassettes, the 1994
Yes.
Urantia Foundation
Yes,
audio
I know the
cassettes.
ones.
And I loaded them onto an MP3 player, listened to them in my car, and through that means, I read it twice
You've been
from
able to
cover to
digest
cover.
it, yes.
And it started opening up things in our lives, a spirituality, a sensitivity,
Yes.
reconnection with the gods.
Yes.
So what happened then is we started really getting into it, and I said, I'd like to study more or talk to people about it and see what's going on and how other people see the Urantia book. So I looked up study groups. We weren't fellowship, we weren't Urantia Foundation,
Oh, no,
we weren't
didn't
UAI
even
or
know
anything.
you had study groups.
I just wanted to talk to people, right? So I was just kind of, surfing around the net, and then saw study groups. So we hooked up with Robert Burns
Yes.
in Irvine
Yes.
with his study group.
Yes.
On our anniversary.
Yeah, it was like an
July.
anniversary present, as a matter of fact.
Actually, the 14th was when we
The day
went the
after.
first day.
Yeah.
The day after. On the 13th, Michael wanted to do it, and so I asked them which would be better, and they said, Robert Burns, go call him.
Yes.
I called him, and I said, this is a surprise present for my husband for our anniversary. And he said, well, come tonight. We'll have a meeting
Wow.
tonight.
So-
2011.
So we got
When is your
together.
anniversary?
July 13th.
July 13th.
July 13th.
1995.
Okay.
July 13th.
All right, so you...
So then we were at Robert Burns probably a year or so, and the opportunity opened up, and Robert made this happen, for me to speak at a mini conference in San Diego that
Oh,
Andrea
lovely.
Barnes and Tevo Orjula had arranged. And by the way, Norman and Stella were there. So I did the presentation. It was called Preparing the Mind for Perfection.
Yes.
And I had a couple of my songs. I had not written songs at all, even in college,
No.
until we started delving into the Urantia book, right?
Urantia book,
So I had a
the
couple.
songs.
Yeah, right. And they were, I started writing Urantia-inspired songs. So I sang a couple of them during my presentation,
Yes.
and Norman Ingram really liked them. And you know what he said to me? He said, I really like your songs, Michael. I've got a friend that I'm serious. Exact words. He said his name's Pato Bantan. So then I got a couple more songs together, and then I saw you at the Coach House, met with you, and you said the best things you could have ever said to me. You said, your songs a little different than mine. Why don't you explore your own style?
I remember.
I told him the same
Yeah.
thing.
I remember.
We were going to have my oldest son do the songs, but they said, no, it's got to be Michael.
That was way back when.
Yeah, that
That
was
was a long time
2011.
ago.
I think.
Yeah, that was a while.
So then, and I talked to one of the accompanists at the church. She said same thing. Do it yourself. So now here we are. I have 3 albums, and I'm working on my 4th. The 4th one's almost done.
Wow.
They're on, they're on Amazon. They're on
Yes.
iTunes, Spotify, CD Baby, and everything.
You need to promote them a bit more.
Well, we haven't at all, really.
But to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
the reason they haven't really been that
We're
promoted
just waiting.
is because the Celestials have come to our house a lot.
Yeah.
And the new worldwide religion of love has, and the
Yes.
Magisterial Mission, that has taken a precedent.
Oh, yes.
I'm composing the songs, I'm writing the songs that go along with the messaging and
Yes.
go along with the whole experience. But as far as promoting them
We
singularly,
haven't.
I've seen the 2 songs on
Really done that
YouTube.
much.
The 2 songs on your YouTube site.
uh-huh.
And
There are a lot more.
yeah. But if you attach the link to the albums, that would just allow people, once they listen to the song, they can go to the albums.
Oh, so you can attach a link.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
okay.
can attach
So we're
a link.
learning in that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
started releasing them just
Okay.
like a year ago.
All right. So
Yeah.
going from there,
Okay.
going from what's brought you up to the teaching mission and everything now, and this message of love, Maitreya. Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to know what led you to Maitreya, because I looked for Maitreya in the Urantia book and I didn't find him.
No,
there.
you're not going to find that name.
No.
So I wanted to know what type of being is Maitreya and what led you to Maitreya.
Okay.
And then in there, because teaching mission and Maitreya is, I think, is a different thing as well too, isn't
Yeah,
it?
not necessarily teaching mission. Teaching mission's a little different approach.
We're not really
We're not associated
associated with the teaching
the teaching.
mission.
They're talking
But
about
we
the
love all the
Magisterial
people.
Mission.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
that's why. But you,
Yeah.
but you said teaching
Yeah.
mission,
Which is
but-
in
Yeah,
the Urantia book.
yes.
Magisterial
And we
mission's
love
in
people.
Yes,
We
that's
know a lot
right.
of them.
That's right.
So go ahead.
So
Oh.
what's led you to Maitreya, and what type of being is Maitreya? Because I don't...
Then I'll let you talk about it then.
All right then.
All right, well, we went to a Chinese restaurant, and it was for my birthday, November 12th, and my mother's, because after my father died, we took my mother. And so we went for my birthday lunch and my mother's birthday lunch. And two little Chinese ladies waited on us. They were very young, and they were very sweet. And when they found out we were vegetarians, oh, and we had my sons with us, my two sons. Michael was not there, I'm sorry. We had my two sons, Dean and Don. The little girls fell in love with my boys. And they said, "You're vegetarians and your sons are vegetarians." They said, "May we bring our mother to cook for you and bring our master?" Well, we didn't know what she meant by the master. Well, they came the next Sunday. They made us a huge dinner in the kitchen, and they brought their master, whose name was Master Sin from India. And he was with Maitreya Great Tao. Now, both the little girls were Maitreya Great Tao.
Did you say Master Singh?
S-I-N.
S-I-N.
Okay,
Master Sin.
Yes.
Indian. He lived in India.
We thought it was weird that his name was Sin.
I know, but that's the way it is.
That's his kind of nickname, actually.
Nickname, yes.
Kun Lan Chok was the one little girl, and the other one is Rosalind T.
Yes.
And these two little girls, we don't have this type of thing in the Urantia book, or even in Catholicism where we have our church, but there they have young ladies stand on either side of the altar, and they will kind of direct and help with ceremonies. They will also bring fruit to the altar, so we wouldn't call them a priestess. I don't quite know, but these two little girls were trained in Taiwan. Kun Lan Chok, we named Beth. She was trained to be a master, but she declined the master title. But she took all of the training. And also another young lady with them, and that was our darling Sammy. And can you tell them the Chinese name is... her name, Willow. Willow, she goes by Willow. So anyway, these little girls, they came to America to bring Maitreya Great Tao and Maitreya to the Western world. They rented a home in Orange, and they started bringing people in with their altar, and they brought a master in from Malaysia. But Sammy and Kun Lan Chok, they took the master training. Now, Master Wong is the head in Taiwan of all of it, the world. So they sent me and Michael to Taiwan and to Malaysia to meet with Master Wong for a 2-hour meeting.
Yes.
Where we gave him 3 special messages from God. The first message was that the Maitreya Great Tao should have a new symbol, and that would be a small gold round circle. The second thing that we wanted to bring to them from the Masters, the Celestials, was that they were to not don the gray and charcoal robes anymore. He wanted the celestials, the Father wanted either a soft pastel pink or lavender. They could have a little blue, but not to have the charcoal. And the third secret we gave to Master Wang, and it was through an interpreter at that time. He had not acquired all his English, but he has now. The third secret was that Michael and I wanted to be the representatives of Maitreya for the Western world.
So, the messages that you were giving to Master Wang, where did those messages come from?
From the Celestials. I do not
What
know
else
the
did
name
she was communicating?
because this was back in '95.
Not from any organization or anything.
Right,
Just strictly
no.
from the Celestials.
This is just from the angels.
Okay.
And I had not had the privilege of knowing them individually by name before that.
Okay. So
This
then there
was
was
just from the angels.
so there was celestial communication that was previous back in the 90s,
Oh.
and then but no, from when you was a little child. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yes, from when you was a child.
Yes.
So you've always had communication as you was growing up, and then when you met the ladies in the Chinese restaurant,
They brought us into Maitreya.
Maitreya.
when did that happen?
That was in '93, I believe.
in '93.
November 12th was when we met Kunlan Chok and Rosalind T., her cousin.
Okay.
And now we did not meet Sammy, although Sammy did go to the training with Kunlan Chok at the same time, and that was in '95. And what happened there is they wanted us to go to meet Master Wang and give him these 3 suggestions, these messages from the gods. So Beth made all the arrangements, Kunlan Chok. She contacted Master Wang, told him, and so we flew on the same plane with Master Wang from Taiwan to Malaysia. And then we were invited to the big lunch they had prepared for us. We were the only guests, and there were hundreds of people there. And they were in the big hall, and they had a big table, and there were probably 50 young ladies that would bring fruit, each on either side, down to the big altar. And so we had that ceremony first, and the pictures looked kind of funny, because there I was in this royal blue dress, and Michael in a shirt, and then you've got all these hundreds of people in white robes.
So, what type?
just have one other quick question.
What type of being is Maitreya?
Okay. So Maitreya, at that time with Maitreya Great Tao, I also became a member of the Theosophical Society, which talks about Maitreya as Christ that will come to uplift the world. And the same with Rosicrucians, they talk about Maitreya. So Maitreya he's coming as a cosmic Christ, and his magisterial mission began, we're told, in March 20th, 2017.
Yes.
Maitreya, coming as the cosmic Christ, is also known in the Urantia Book as a magisterial son. Okay, so he is the magisterial son coming on a magisterial mission at this time, sponsored by Michael, the Creator's Son, Local Universe Father, Local Universe Mother, with a lot of supporting beings involved. Gabriel, Bright and Morning Star, Mother Venus. We have a lot of the celestials that you read about in the Olympian pantheon, like Demeter, Ceres, and also some supporting beings like the Infinite Mother Spirit you read about in the Urantia Book just a couple times. Universal Mother, Universal Father, Infinite Father Spirit.
Yes. Was Maitreya alive in the past?
Oh, of course. I mean, he's one of those beings that...
no, I don't mean as far as on a spiritual level. I mean, was he a Buddhist?
A person.
Yes, that's what
an
happened.
incarnation?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
90,000 years ago, supposedly, see, I was involved in Summit Lighthouse, Summit University, for many years.
That's Elizabeth
And I
Clare
took
Pratt.
my children into that. And we'd see Elizabeth Clare doing her lectures in Los Angeles, and the last one was in San Diego. She told us that Maitreya was right beneath Gautama Buddha, and there were 5 of them that came under Sanat Kumara, who was Venus's consort. who is also Gabriel. That they came 90,000 years ago to the earth to save the earth, that the powers that be were going to possibly do it in. And so they came to save the earth. And Sanat Kumara was up on the palace with Venus, Lady Venus, and looking down, and he thought he'd be going to the earth alone. The earth was not doing too well, and he wanted to make it into a freedom star. So all of a sudden, 144,000 legions of people from Venus came round holding torches around and round the palace, and they all declared they would go with him.
Wow.
And there also was a whole legion of Melchizedeks with them. So they did come 90,000 years ago. That was Maitreya. Now, Elizabeth Clare Prophet told us in a dictation on November 21st, 1976, that Maitreya said, "I'm coming, I'm coming." Now, you have Benjamin Creme. He came to London. He was from London, actually, but I mean, Maitreya came to London, left his home, Shambhala, came to, on a plane, came to London, and came into the Eastern Asian district to live as a human, incarnating. And Benjamin Creme wrote many books about his messages from him. Now we are told that he has come here to this America, to California, to Mission Viejo, to this home, not exactly as a headquarters, but as a temple.
Yes.
What would you call it? A temple?
A temple complex,
something like
where
that.
they do various things here that we don't know about mostly.
Yes.
But some
Now
things
there
that-
have been, angels have been working on the patio for about the last 2 years, and in this great room, and each area of the home is assigned to a different celestial.
And Maitreya is one of the beings. He's the Magisterial Mission. He's kind of the nuts and bolts guy. The supporters, of course, the local universe father, local universe mother. There are workers. There are Melchizedeks. There are angels, seraphim, all kinds of.
Paradise Daughters.
Of course, most recently we've heard about Gabriel, bright and morning star, and Mother Venus preparing for a new worldwide religion of love that will happen, that will be in motion by 2020.
Okay.
2022 especially.
Okay, I just want to
And
tell
then she
them.
wants to tell. She wants
We
to
got
tell
1 minute.
Oh, 1
And I
minute.
have a question.
Christmas gift.
Yes,
I just
yes.
have a question.
All right.
Okay.
the
of
Christmas
course.
gift. If you want to stay
Yeah.
here, I can do the
Oh,
radio
you want me to
program.
say that? No, I'll go with you.
Okay.
She will be incarnating in March of 2020.
Yes.
She will be going to every church, every temple,
Yes.
every place of worship in the world. She will be known by her yellow gown and a gold star. She has kind of red hair. She'll be appearing as a 49, 50-year-old woman, not a teenager, not a young matron, but an older woman. And she will, I hope, come to this place of worship. But the main thing is, she's coming to every person, because within our hearts there is a place of worship. And
who's that?
You guys, why don't you stay for a couple
No,
minutes?
no,
I'll take the
that's-
radio program.
no.
We have a radio
What
program.
time is it?
We've still got 4 minutes.
No, we have
do we?
enough time.
Oh,
We're
okay,
fine.
okay.
Let's go ahead.
All right, so
And
quick
who's-
question.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I wonder,
question.
who is this that's appearing in March?
This is Lady Venus.
Lady Venus.
She
This is Gabriel's
Venus.
partner.
She's a paradise
Gabriel's
daughter.
consort.
Okay.
She is known as Aphrodite. She's known as Astarte. She is connected with Gabriel as Hephaestus. He is the bright and morning star.
Okay. So my question is, when you said ambassadors to the West, because I've seen Maitreya appear at different organizations.
Yes,
So would you say
yes.
that you're part of the Maitreya.org, that one organization?
No.
Because, or is it,
No.
there's a lot of different splinters, like denominations of Maitreya?
we're members.
We are members. We took the altar you see down in our living room is the altar that Kun Lanchok brought in the house years and years ago.
Yes.
And they made this a holy
Yes,
temple
and this is a
registered
holy
in
temple.
Taiwan.
We are part of Maitreya Great Tao. We have taken all the ceremonies. One of my sons did
Okay.
too. But
So, I mean,
we
how
are
many
not
are- yeah.
doing this as Maitreya Great Tao.
Well-
we are doing it as for everyone in the world.
Yes.
We We are Rosicrucian. We are Maitreya
Yes.
Great Tao. We are Urantia
Yes.
members. We are
Multi-faith.
yes.
Well, no, that's what I
We
thought
are
that they all
Christians.
were. I
We
mean,
are
because
Catholic.
they.
We are. It's everything.
No,
we don't
some of the
want to have
Maitreya
it one.
religion.
Well, some of the
systems
Maitreyas are strictly
Buddhism.
Buddhist, but the other Maitreya ones are the ones like the ones that we saw at the UFO convention and at the Parliament. Was that Maitreya was the Maitreya of it being the Son of God as Christ.
He is coming as the cosmic Christ, and that's how he
Okay.
wants to be
Yes.
known.
He's the same being, kind of.
But that's still the same
And there are a lot of other-
organization, or are they
Yes.
still like?
Yes.
Well, there are different organizations, but they're feeling the same impulse.
Yes, we are Maitreya Great Tao, which is separate from some of the
That's
others.
what I need to separate.
Nice to
Maitreya
meet
Great
you.
Tao.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you
All right.
so much.
Oh, thank you, darling. We'll be right there.
All right,
well,
then.
come down.
Blessings. All right, we're coming
down.
now.
Okay.
Open my heart, Father and Mother. Open my heart, reveal your truth. I want to receive your love and guidance, and maybe a miracle too. A wonderful life.